Hi, everyone.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another one of our book talks for the Latinx in Kidlit book blog. I am Dora Guzman, and I'm joined here again with,
I'm Sonia Alejandra Rodriguez, and I'm also a contributor for the Latinx and Kidlit blog.
yes, and today we're talking about the Bossy Gallito, El Gallo de Bodas, retold by Lucia Gonzalez, illustrated by Lulu Delacre. It is a 1996 Pura Belpre Award Honor for narrative and illustration.
Yeah, we're just talking about how exciting it is to this. This is the first year that the award was given, 1996, and so this is one of the honors for that book. That's exciting. It feels like a throwback,
Yeah,
like way throwback. Like let's take it all the way back. That's awesome. So, what did you think of the
yeah.
story?
I thought the story was funny, and I think we mentioned it before too that the Gallito. I don't know. I personally like the Gallito. I mean, I feel like he was very much, this I'm a gallo and I get to boss everybody around town. It was funny though that people told him no. Like the other characters were like, no, I'm not doing this for you. And I was like, oh, for a children's book, I was like, oh wait, hold on.
Yeah. So
You're
this is
telling him
like
no?
about a gallito who wants to, he's on his way to a wedding, right? And like a series of unfortunate events take place and he gets dirty or he gets messy, right? And he's trying to make these characters as he goes along um to do his bidding so he can clean up, but it's not working. The story takes place, um I think it takes place in like it's supposed to be like a retelling reinterpretation of like Calle Ocho and like Little Havana in Miami, or like it has that aesthetic.
Yeah.
And like you said, yeah, it really does. Like Aita really takes on these qualities, right? Of these like really grand gallo of just bossing the characters around.
Yeah, and it was the first read I had. So basically, he asks like the goat to eat the grass. He asks various characters around town, right? Because he's getting ready for this wedding, and everybody tells him no until he asks the sun. So in my first read, I didn't really capture that he asked the sun nicely. I just made the connection that because the rooster and the sun, right? There's a connection, right? The rooster's always, up in the morning with the sun. I thought it was because they had a previous relationship, like a previous friendship. But on my second read, I was like, oh no, he asked them in a different way. He asked the
Oh, that's
son
so
in a very
interesting.
different way. Yeah, so
I
it's so
didn't catch
interesting how
that.
I made that connection.
Yeah, I didn't catch that. That's so interesting. I think it was mostly this is like a cause and effect story, right? And like our actions have consequences. He knows he has to get to this wedding and he has to look fancy, right? He wants to make a big impact. Um, but he decides to like eat corn or something off of some mud thing. And he's like, should I do it? Should I not? I'm just gonna do it. And he gets dirty, right? And so like cause and effect. The decision was made, consequences. And so he goes on to these other like animal characters, or like he goes to the grass, it can't clean him off. Then he goes to the goat eat the grass for not cleaning me up. The goat says no. And then he just kind of goes like to the stick and to like the fire, get the stick for not hitting the goat. And so like all of these consecutives like cause and effects um for the Gallito's like first decision, but I did not catch right that at the end he asks
Yeah.
the son differently or nicer, right? Because he's bossing around the
Yeah.
other characters, and how much of an impact it has how we say things, how we word things, how we phrase our tone, right? Especially if we want something.
Yeah, and the Gallito is not like the friendliest. Like the reason why he's going around to all these characters is not, he's not like a problem solution type of gallo. He's like, no, I need you to go do this because they said no. I was like, whoa, it's like, let me find a friend to force you to do what I want. Like, what was it? He wanted the sun to burn something. And I was like, hold on. I was like, wow, he
Oh,
did not let it go.
to evaporate the water, who
Yes.
wouldn't put out the fire for not burning the stick, for not hitting the goat, for not eating the grass, who not clean off his mud, right? So like again, like this trickle of like consequences or effects, right, for his decision to like, I'm on my way to a wedding, but I'm gonna eat this like mud thing. So
Yeah.
we'll see how that works out.
Which kudos to the other characters for not being like, no, I'm not going to get in your mess. I'm not going to help you.
Yeah, I'm out.
Being mean to others, right? So there's a lesson in that in itself.
Yeah, which is then I don't know what that says about the sun who evaporated the water. And then because so this was 1986 and evaporated the water, the sun. What year are we? 2021. And then I started thinking about that fire in the ocean.
Yes.
I was like, oh my God, climate change. The story's about climate change, right? Like this is what this is. This is what's happening. But I mean, yeah, it was an interesting read.
Yeah, definitely. It's a bilingual text, so it's in English and Spanish.
Oh, yeah.
And again, like you said, it builds on one another. So again, it has that feel of, you know, the old lady who swallowed the fly, right? It's very much in children's picture books, how it builds, right? And it just helps the children remind, or just helps readers remind of like the story, right? And everything builds on one another. I love the illustrations though in this one. Lulu Delacre was another illustrator we talked about for the Storyteller's Candle. What did you think about the illustrations, Sonia?
I really like them. I want to show one that was my favorite as I was reading, and it's the closing where he actually makes it to the wedding, and I like it so much just because it's so detailed, it's so vibrant, and again just the description of like what the illustrations were and how they were made. That Delacre used Little Havana as an inspiration for the illustrations, and so like that comes off across like in the colors, in the birds, and like even just like their mannerisms and the attitude, right? Because the Bossy Gallito is a Cuban folktale, and so all of that, I think, culture is very representative in the illustrations, which is always cool to see.
Back to this book, which I think you highlighted as we were talking.
We lost you for a little bit.
This is one of my.
There was a little bit of lag, but go ahead.
Okay. I know, this internet. You would think it would get together by now, right? It's like 2021. Anyway,
yeah, I know.
I think this is what you were talking about in like how she took these photographs from Little Havana to inspire her Lulu's illustrations in the text with the use of watercolor and color pencils. I don't know, I just love it all.
Yeah, and I feel like the video definitely doesn't like do justice, right? Like you need to like actually see the picture, because I think watercolor in particular is one of those like mediums where I mean I just like watercolor because like it could get like dark, it could get lighter depending on how much water and how much like you're moving it, and you can clearly see that like even in that picture that you just showed, like in the trees, like it has like that watercolor like look to it, right? Because some parts of it like are darker and some parts of it are lighter, as if like the watercolor had a lot of water to it. I'm sure there is like an artist term for that. But you put a lot of water in it and it looks real nice. That's what that looks like. And then I think you said that the Delacre also used like color pencil, right? So you could see like those details and just that color vibrance in these illustrations, which is cool.
Yeah, and there's so many descriptions in the back too about like even the birds are from Florida. They're very specific to that region. So, you know, if you have readers who are, I don't know much about birds besides the general ones, but I learned so much about the birds that that Lulu specifically integrated in this text, right? And illustrated just again to bring that community in a picture book.
Yeah, and I think as we're going through a lot of these award-winning books for the Pura Belpre Award, I really am feeling drawn to like these books that retell like folk tales. Like
Yeah.
they do still feel very commonplace. They feel very traditional. They feel very homey. Um, and I think in maybe towards the back of the book, Lucia Gonzalez talks about like having heard this folktale growing up a lot, the Bossy Gallito, or there's something about like el gallito de las bodas, over and over as she was growing up, right? And so again, we've talked several times about the importance of storytelling and passing on these stories and trying to retell them, with their own like little spins, and how important that is for our communities.
Yeah, I've learned so much too, just even now that you mentioned that. I've learned so much about just the vast experiences of Latinx communities, right? Like, obviously, I'm a little bit more knowledgeable about, my own stories and my own, where my parents were born and raised, but it's going on this journey of just like looking at not only the illustrations, but the stories about various communities and life experiences really shows how wide our experiences are, right? Through generations, through various countries, through various folk tales. Yeah, I really enjoyed just looking at all the different, just learning. I feel like I learned so much, right? And as teachers, I think we're always learning, but I was like, oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And then like I was also thinking like we're going through like all these books for like the Belpre Award, right? And so here we have another book that's from the very beginning of the award in 1996, when there weren't as like many available Latinx books right at the time, compared to like what's happening now in 2021. There's a great like explosion of it. We still need a lot more. There's still a lot of gaps that need to be filled. But even as we look at like some of these older ones, these 20 plus years books, like I'm still kind of impressed with like the stories that are being told, that were being circulated, and definitely strongly recommend, right, our audience to like check out these older books, right? Because it's the foundation of like what is Latinx lit now.
Yeah, and it leads you to just, a lot of various illustrators too. If you're looking to add more to your public libraries or your own personal library, your school libraries, I feel like, just this is our second, third book reading about and learning about Lulu Delacre and her style. That leads us to more picture books and more works of literature that we can incorporate.
Yeah, and I think we've said in the past too that just like folktales in general allow for just conversations across cultures, right? That even though this is a folktale, like a Cuban folktale, I'm sure there are other cultures that have folktales like around weddings, around using animals, right, to talk about behavior and consequences or cause and effect, problem solving, things like that, that could enrich like any like classroom discussion.
Yeah. So definitely a great addition. And I'm glad that we went all the way back to, this is one of the originals, right? The original award winners.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me about it, the Bossy Gallito. Well, I'll put all the links on the description. Make sure everybody buy the book. Follow Latinx and Kitlit blog. Thank you so much.
See you next time.